there is, how would I say this, in the Irish culture, and my mother is Irish, so I feel, if I'm going to offend anyone, it will be my mother. Though she wouldn't be offended by my saying this. There's sort of a culture that women need to be able to bring in money because the men, may end up drinking a lot rather than having careers. And so it's been quite, women have tended to want to go into computer science as a way of being sure that they would be able to earn a living. So here we are with computers being viewed as, in our culture, computer science is something that girls don't think they'll be as good at, and they don't think they will enjoy doing it. Now there's another factor that I should just mention because it also tends to influence the participation or not of women in certain areas, and that's something called the imposter syndrome. So the imposter syndrome refers to the fact that it describes the phenomenon that you can have people who are successful in many, many ways, and where people from the outside would think that this particular individual has been successful throughout their career, and et cetera, and yet the individual inside feels it's all luck and they're going to discover I'm a fraud any day now. And the imposter syndrome applies, anybody can suffer from it, male or female, and you can suffer from it at any stage in your life, but all of the research shows that it tends to affect women more strongly than men. Now, I'll just tell you a little story about the imposter syndrome. The first one is, well, first of all, I suffer from it. And what's interesting to me is that what makes me feel like an imposter has, of course, changed throughout my career. And so, back in the 1970s, if I had to eat in a restaurant, take a taxi, or stay in a hotel, I really felt like I didn't belong in any of those places because, I grew up in a family that both of my parents were university professors, but we had very little money. We never stayed in hotels. We didn't ride in taxis. We didn't eat in restaurants. And so when I was faced with doing those for the first time, I felt like everyone could see that I didn't fit. And as of course, I now am able to ride in taxis, stay in hotels and restaurants without feeling like a total fraud, thankfully. But what I've realized is as I become older and have had to take on greater levels of do more and more kinds of things that I was not accustomed to and that I would view as something that successful people do, and seeing I'm not successful, I shouldn't be doing those things. The level of what causes me to feel like an imposter has lifted. And so, in 1980 it would have been giving a keynote at a major conference, and in the 1990s it would have been, giving my first press conference or something like that. And now it's being on the Microsoft board. But the biggest joke about being an imposter was, I'm quite embarrassed to tell people that I'm president of a college. I love being president of Harvard University. It's my best job ever. I don't feel like a college president. So we're being picked up. We're about to, after Christmas, and we're being picked up at 4:30 in the morning to go by taxi to go to Ontario Airport. And the taxi driver, I happen to live on a house actually on the campus called Garrett House, and so the taxi driver's there. And he says to us, work at the college. And my husband says, yes, she's the president. And my husband's also a professor at North, but that's what he says. And the taxi driver goes, you are not. I go, well, explain to me. And no, I don't look like it, but I am. And he goes, you are not. You're the third person that I've driven this week who claimed to be the president of the college. He didn't realize there were 7 Claremont colleges. So anyway, the thing about the imposter syndrome is, so many people suffer from it, but it is worse for females. It has a larger impact, and it's particularly problematic when females are in a situation where they're a very small minority, like 10 to 20%. And what happens is that what you see happening is you may find a high school senior who is a female high school senior who's actually really good at math and science and who likes computer science, likes programming. Programming, I'll just say, it's an incredibly interesting, creative, sometimes frustrating, but creative and challenging endeavor. It is not boring. But you could have a female who, you know, is quite interested. She decides to major in computer science. She starts taking computer science courses. She's doing well. She's getting A minuses, and she drops out halfway through her second year and switches to economics because she just feels like she doesn't belong. Now, she's doing well academically, but she feels like she doesn't belong. Why does she feel like she doesn't belong? Because she likes ballroom dancing, and she likes music, and she likes doing all these other things, and all the other students who are getting B minuses, but in her classes were a male. What do they do at night? They read Slashdot. They read computer magazines, and she goes like, they belong, I don't belong, even though she's being more successful. Okay, so let me talk about how we can change this. The first thing is, I mean, I'll just say, the image of computer science is terrible, and it's partly Dilbert's fault, and it's partly Bill Gates' fault. But between the two of them, it's like, you know, I would talk to young women who were computer science majors, and they'd say, all of my friends say they can't believe I'm doing this. Like, it's just, how do you hang out with those dorks all the time? How can you do this? So we really need to change the image. We also need to make the introductory classes to computer science much more interesting. And the thing about the way we've set up our introductory classes is that they tend to focus on sort of the innards of computing rather than what you can do with computer science. And one of the things we know from lots of research is that females are more likely to be interested in the application areas of science and engineering than they are on, you know, what makes a computer hardware do such and such. And there's no particular reason to start. I mean, you can start into a course in into a discipline. You can make your introductory course lots of different things. I mean, you do not have to start with the way hardware works is such and such, or let's learn this program, let's learn Java, and, you know, like, just focus on getting as far as we can, as fast as we can, learning a particular programming language. You could start with talking about and having students work on problems that demonstrated the amazing applications of information technology. But most places don't. And then the final thing is, it's the impossible.